Today on Global Bike Trends, we're taking a deep dive into a machine that blends modern reliability with old-school charm, the 2020 Honda GB500. For those of you who love classic styling but don't want to compromise on Honda's reputation for smooth engineering, the GB500 is a bike that might already be on your radar. Honda first introduced the GB series in the late 1980s as an homage to British café-racer racers, and the 2020 refresh brought that same vintage look into a more contemporary package. It's not the most common model in Honda's lineup, but that rarity adds to its allure. Let's start with the design. One glance at the GB500 and you can see why it has such a cult following. The styling is unmistakably retro, with a teardrop-shaped fuel tank, wire-spoked wheels, and a round headlamp that screams 1960s racing heritage. The seat is a slim, café-racer style saddle with a tasteful rear cowl that gives it an authentic period-correct silhouette. Honda nailed the proportions so long and lean without looking outdated, and compact enough to feel approachable. Polished chrome accents, a rich paint finish, and subtle badging elevate its aesthetic appeal. For riders who love the romance of a vintage machine but want something that starts every time and doesn't require constant tinkering, this bike delivers. Now let's talk about what powers the GB500. At its heart, it carries a 498cc single-cylinder, air-cooled 4-stroke engine. This thumper is all about usable torque and smooth delivery, producing around 33 to 38 horsepower. Depending on the market, it's not designed to win drag races. Instead, it focuses on a relaxed, linear power curve that's ideal for city cruising, weekend backroad rides, and everyday commuting. The 5-speed gearbox is slick and forgiving, and the clutch action is light, perfect for both newer riders and experienced enthusiasts who simply want a stress-free ride. In terms of performance, the GB500 isn't a sport bike, but it doesn't need to be. It's nimble, light, and confidence-inspiring thanks to its relatively low weight of around 390 pounds. Dry handling is tight and predictable, and the bike's modest power output means you can use most of the throttle without feeling overwhelmed. The suspension is fairly basic, with telescopic forks at the front and twin shocks at the rear, but Honda tuned it for comfort rather than aggression. Braking comes courtesy of a single front disc and a rear drum. Again, nothing cutting edge, but more than adequate for the speeds this bike is meant to travel. One of the unique selling points of the 2020 GB500 is its ability to bridge era. It captures the spirit of British café-racer racers without their mechanical headaches. Riders get the visual satisfaction of a classic bike while enjoying Honda's reliability, ease of maintenance, and parts availability. The single-cylinder engine is simple to work on. Fuel economy is excellent, averaging between 55 to 65 miles per gallon, and the bike's compact size makes it incredibly user-friendly in urban environments. Another factor worth mentioning is collectability. The GB500 has always been something of a niche offering, but that exclusivity makes it appealing. In the US, for example, earlier models from the 1980s and 90s are now considered highly desirable classics. The 2020 continuation model wasn't produced in huge numbers, and that rarity means it tends to hold its value well. Many riders buy them not just as a daily ride but as a piece of rolling art. Price-wise, the 2020 Honda GB500 typically sold new for around $7,500 to $8,000, depending on the market. On the used market today, you might find them in excellent condition ranging from $6,000 to $9,000, often commanding higher prices if they're low mileage or well preserved. For a motorcycle that combines heritage styling with Honda dependability, that's a solid investment. So who is this bike for? The GB500 is perfect for someone who wants the retro look without diving into full-on vintage ownership. If you appreciate the café-racer aesthetic but also want a motorcycle that you can ride daily without worrying about electrical gremlins or constant carb tuning, this machine is ideal. It's also a fantastic second bike for collectors or enthusiasts who want something unique in the garage that still gets plenty of road time. In the end, The 2020 Honda GB500 is a reminder that motorcycles can be more than just machines. They can be style statements, tributes to history, and practical daily companions all in one. It's not about blistering performance figures or cutting-edge electronics. It's about the joy of riding something that looks and feels timeless, yet works as smoothly as any modern Honda. That's our look at the 2020 Honda GB500. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to like, subscribe, and join us on Global Bike Trends as we continue exploring the world's most iconic motorcycles.